companies are doing. I was just trying to learn since yesterday what the group is doing, and it is doing a great service to the humanity and to the students community, and I wish much more to be done, and I am totally impressed, and thanks for once again for inviting me to this event. So I will try to take you through ISRO what we are doing instead of only Chandrayaan 3. So you can note down whatever the questions you have during my presentation, and we have exclusive question and answer session. I understand that there is an exclusive session. Whatever the questions you have, you feel free to ask me, and I will try to answer. If I am not able to answer, I will get back to you. So instead of telling only Chandrayaan 3, I thought a brief introduction about ISRO and what the satellites and what our center is doing. So first couple of slides I will be taking you through that. Then I will also touch upon the Chandrayaan 3. At the end, what is the science it has given, at least the preliminary science results. And we have some couple of videos so that you will be enjoying, at least not getting bored with the only a presentation. Next slide. Can you go to the next slide? As you all know, the father of Indian space program is Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who was a visionary, who was actually all the space what we are doing, the space industry what is there, ISRO what we are doing is based on the visionary of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. Next. And you would have seen, we started with an humble beginning by carrying the rocket, a small tiny rocket, through bicycle to the launch pad, and we started from that particular space to what we have now. We are now self-reliant with our own launch vehicle with the capability of so many tons of satellite we can launch, and also we have a capability to build satellites in our own Indian soil, and we can also launch through our own spaceport. As well, it gives enormous applications to the common man. So if you see that the ISRO is doing a wonderful job launching the satellites, we have our own rockets, we have our own satellites, we have our own spaceport, as well it is giving plenty of applications. So if you see the ISRO is being, Department of Space is reporting to the Prime Minister, and we have a Space Commission, and we have Ministry of Space. Under the Department of Space, we have many entities. One is InSpace. This InSpace was formed recently in 2020, basically to promote, handhold, as well as authorize and supervise the private industries, particularly the non-NGEs, so that the space economy can be accelerated. That was an idea behind our Government of India. And the CBSE, we have two, NSIL and Antrix. This is a commercial arm of ISRO. So New Space India Limited was formed, and again it is to promote and to give various aspects like launch services, satellite services, as well as applications, and many interesting things NSIL is doing. And ISRO, we have various centers again. We have lead center of satellite building, which is UR Satellite Center, which is located at Bangalore, and BSSC, it's Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, which is again a rocket center at Trivandrum, and there is a spaceport which we all aware, STSC Shah, Sriharikota, and we have ISRO Telemetry Tracking Center, Laboratory for Electro-Optics, SAT, System Application Center for the payloads, and so many centers are there. And ISRO is spread across India, almost south to north and east to west. It is spread across everywhere in India. And there are autonomous bodies, that is PRL, that is Physical Research Laboratory, NARL, and NESC, and IAST. We have our own college, that is Space Institute, where students learn more about the space science. Next slide. The accomplishments so far from ISRO, there are 94 missions, launch vehicle missions were completed, and 125 satellites were launched, and 2 re-entry missions, and more than 250 spacecraft applications for the common man. So this much of work ISRO so far is accomplished. And we also launched 431 foreign satellites from 34 countries. So far it is launched. And our workhorse is the PSLV, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, which carried multiple foreign satellites. It is a versatile launch vehicle through which various launches had taken place right from 1999 onwards. Next. So, we all know that the SLV-3 was the first rocket where our Abdul Kalam sir was the project director for this mission, and that was the first launch vehicle which actually we became the space-faring nation, and we proved that we can launch from our own soil. And from then, you see the LBM-3, the payload capability got enhanced from SLV-3 to LBM-3. Before SLV-3, we had Rohini rockets, where tiny rockets were there, where small experimental payloads were launched from Tumba Equatorial Launch Pad. And then onwards, actual launch vehicle has come. We were launching from our own Sriharikota. And LBM-3 is the heaviest launch vehicle where Chandrayaan-3 got launched and injected into a precise orbit. This LBM-3 is a launch vehicle which can deliver the satellite. 410 kg of satellite can be delivered in a GTO orbit. As you all know, there are several orbits. You may be knowing low Earth orbit, geosynchronous orbit, then medium Earth orbit, then interplanetary missions. Like that, there are so many orbits. Orbit means you all know, if you just put an object into the space, what will happen? If you just throw a stone, what will happen? It will come down. Why it is coming down? Because of gravity. So you throw a stone with such a high speed or a high velocity, then what happens? It can go around the earth or it can escape from the earth. It depends on the velocity in which you throw the object. Similar way, we have different orbits for different applications. Like remote sensing satellites are meant for some applications, communication satellites are meant for some applications, and science exploratory missions are meant for some applications. Like that, we have different orbits. So these orbits are achieved by injecting the satellite into a precise velocity and precise orbit. That's how the launch vehicle, the first step is the launch vehicle is doing that job. So PSLV has some capability, GSLV has some capability, LBM-3 has some capability. LBM-3 is the heaviest one, 4-ton satellite it can carry into GTO, that is geosynchronous transfer orbit, and PSLV is mainly meant for a low Earth orbit. As well, it has a capability to inject into a GTO. Next slide. So coming to where I am coming from a center called URSC, UR Satellite Center. He is again a visionary. He was a founder of the Satellite Center, where right now we started with the humble beginning from Peenya 1972 at Bangalore, and we started with a small satellite development center, and now it has grown big. And now if you can see the central portion, that is where the campus, our campus entry, and we do end-to-end design, development, realization of a satellite, all kinds of satellites. In the next slide, I am going to tell you about what all the kinds of satellites we have. So all these satellites, design, development, realization, and finally the satellite is rolled out from this center to Sriharikota for a launch. So this is considered to be a lead center, including the Chandrayaan 1, 2, 3 and Mars Orbiter mission was designed and developed by this center. And we also have a campus at Maratali, because we don't have, we have to expand, because day by day our satellites production is getting enhanced. So we have at Maratali a big campus where all the assembly, testing and the satellite is rolled out from that particular campus. It's a very, very big facility. It's a state-of-the-art facility wherein we have clean room, we have the thermovacuum facility, vibration facility, the mass properties estimation facility, and EMI, electromagnetic interference and electromagnetic compatibility facility. All these facility under one roof. That is how the ISEC campus has come in 2006, and our Chandrayaan-3 is again got assembled in that facility. Next. So coming to the different types of satellites and also different applications. So communications, all of you are aware. Now right now the mobile phones are there, and you are watching TV, you are conducting a live program, all those things are happening through the communication satellites. The satellites, sometimes ago, the space, why the space is important for the common man was questioned. You know, at that time, the Arthur Clarke, he has actually told very long back, if you put an object at 36,000 kilometer altitude from the Earth's surface, at P such satellites you place it at 120-degree apart, it can cover the entire globe. Like that he has told, and people made a lot of comments. What is that he is talking about? We have plenty of problems in Earth. What is that we have to go to space, and what we are going to do by putting an object at 36,000 kilometer? You know now that 36,000 kilometer is like how in Bangalore how the real estate is. It's something similar. There is no space at all in that 36,000 kilometer entire globe, entire 360 degree. There is no space at all. If you have to put one object, you have to go through many protocols. So that is how the demand is. Why 36,000 kilometer? That is called geosynchronous orbit. You know, Earth is revolving around the sun, and Earth is also rotating about its own axis. And it is rotating about its own axis every 24 hours. And that's how the day, night, all such things are coming. Similar way, it's going around the moon for 365 days. So when it is revolving around about its own axis, you put an object at 36,000 kilometer just above India. So the speed in which at 36,000 kilometer and the speed in which it is rotating about its own axis is synchronized. So that at any given point of time, the satellite is always looking at India. That's how you have a live communication. That's why that 36,000 kilometer is very, very important. So we call it as a geosynchronous orbit. So all these applications are derived from that orbit. Then the next one is the Earth observation. Earth observation is another significant application. Many may not be aware. Like so many the ministries are getting benefited from this Earth observations. We have remote sensing, we have crop estimation, natural resource management, atmospheric studies, climatic research studies, so on and so forth. There are many applications from the Earth observation satellites where we typically sun synchronous polar orbit. See again that sun synchronous polar orbit is very important. You put a spacecraft at 400 to 1000 kilometers altitude from the Earth's surface. At every given point of time, you are, for example, a person you are taking with certain illumination condition, you are taking a photo of one person. The same illumination condition, next day if you have to take a photo, then you can really differentiate between how the person's physical appearance changed. The similar way, the natural resource management requires to inject the satellite into the polar sun synchronous orbit. That is why the remote sensing satellites are called for. So every day, every time, local time, that is 9:30, for example 9:30 AM. 9:30 AM, a particular zone is actually sensed. So remote sensing is nothing but you are sensing it from the distance. You are not coming into contact. You are just, for example, if I have to give you just climb 10 floors up and take a photo. You can cover certain areas. If you just go into an helicopter, you can cover a large area. You just take a picture at the 500 kilometers altitude. Almost you can take the entire globe. So similar way, all our urban planning, all our infrastructure development, all this coming through the remote sensing satellites. Then the third application is the space science. The space science is also very important. Say all our interplanetary missions, going to the moon, going to Mars, going to Venus, going to various other planets, going out of the Milky Way galaxy, all these things are also very important because you know how this Milky Way galaxy has come. If you want to study the Earth, you can study from moon as well. There are many science aspects to it. And even if you want to get some minerals from moon, if you want to get some minerals from Mars, or if you want to really see that microbial life is there or not, we do not know whether our human life is present in some other planet. So these are all the explorations. We go to another planet. Then the fourth important thing is the navigation. The navigation is also very important. See, all of you, almost you can't live without GPS. Everywhere our cars and our scooters or anything you fit with the GPS. So it is giving position and velocity accuracy. Wherever we move, we can trace. So all these things is coming from the navigation satellite. You inject into a medium Earth orbit and you have a constellation of satellites so that the satellite will give position and velocity. all the 6 state vectors, that is x, y, z and x dot, y dot, z dot. All the 6 state vectors is provided by the navigation satellites. Next one. So, to meet these applications, there are various satellites. As I already told you, Earth observation, we had 3 typical satellites. One is Cortosat. Cortosat, you would have heard about it, Cortosat applications. We had Cortosat 1, Cortosat 2, Cortosat 3. All these 3 generations of satellites were launched by ISRO for different applications like urban planning, as I told the applications. OceanSat, it's not only we study the land, we also study the ocean. See, ocean, for example, earlier, many thousands of crores were spent in identifying the potential fishing zone. For example, a person has to go and catch fish. Earlier, people they do not know where to catch the fish. Now, through this OceanSat satellite, you will know the potential fishing zone. You just ask the fisherman to go and catch the fish in that particular zone. So that helps. The satellite helps that. And in fact, thousands of crores were saved because of this OceanSat satellites. Then the ResourceSat again, it's a land application. So again, it has so many applications like resource monitoring, natural resource management, and so on. And as I told, communication satellites, all our classical satellites like INSAT satellite, you would have heard about GeoSat, GSAT, and INSAT satellites. There are various satellites right from 1A to till now, INSAT 11, and so many satellites we have launched. All these things for communication applications like broadcasting, direct to home, telemedicine, tele-education. Like for example, one of the example if I have to say, for example, you are in a Coimbatore, you have all the facilities like medical facilities are available, you have renowned doctors. A village does not have that access. Now you can conduct the program through telemedicine where a person can be taught from the Coimbatore city to a remote village. Through telemedicine, this is possible. Similar way, tele-education also. Now you have a group of institutions, similar group of institutions. Now one remote village may not have an access to the actual state-of-the-art facilities to inculcate all our educational things. So you can use tele-education for that purpose. There are many programs like that. And navigation, as I told, we have our own program. Like our GPS is there from US and GLONASS is there from Russia. We have our own IRMSS, which covers not globally, but it covers the entire India and beyond India. And the space exploration. The space exploration, see on the bottommost you can see Chandrayaan 1 was launched. It was basically an orbiting mission. Chandrayaan 2 was it has got 3 objectives. One is orbiting, landing, as well as rover. You know the last part of the Chandrayaan 2, that is the landing we could not achieve safely and softly. We had a crash landing. That's why the Chandrayaan 3 has come. And we had Mars orbiter mission. It went to Mars. Again, it's an orbiting mission, not a landing mission. So we are going to have a landing mission in the next Mars satellite. Then we had Astrosat for aeronomy and astronomy studies. And we also have many other things like Aditya. I have not put here. It is actually going towards the Lagrangian point. In the first week of January, we are going to inject the satellite into a Lagrangian point, wherein the satellite will be constantly observing the sun, and it studies the solar coronal mass ejection and so many sun temperature studies and many studies it conducts. As well, we have Venus orbiter mission in the future. We have Mars landing mission. We have, Prime Minister has already told human on the moon by 2040. We have to send our Indian astronaut and go to the moon and land onto the moon. So this is the target we have now. Next. So, what is a satellite? You might be wondering what is satellite. Anyway, applications all you are all aware. Can anyone tell what is satellite? Moon is a natural satellite. Moon is our natural satellite. So, all these satellites, whatever ISRO has launched, is all the artificial satellite. So, what is a satellite? I already hinted, Moon is a natural satellite. That means an object which is going around the Earth or going around some other planet, it's called a satellite. So, if I have to go and if you have to revolve around the Earth, or if you have to revolve around the Moon or Mars, something you have to do, some application, whatever I meant. So we have different kinds of applications. To meet that applications, one is the sensor, another one is the payload instruments. But to meet that, we require so many things. Like our human body itself is a satellite. Like we have eyes, we have ears, we have nose, we have structural system, we have mechanism, we can rotate our leg, we can rotate our hand. There are many power systems, we can generate heat. Like that, satellite also requires all the systems. Next slide. So the first to start with the payload instrument, what application you want to contact the satellite. So that determines which type of satellite it is. Next. See, for example, camera. Do you require a camera for a remote sensing application? Next. Or you require an altimeter for remote sensing application? Next. So to meet, there are several instruments which I talked about. There are many instruments required to meet different applications. To meet that application, you require certain systems like power system, which I already told. See, in space, what is the difference between a computer and a satellite? For example, one electronic system is there. So what is the fundamental difference? You can actually put our motherboard of the computer and you can put it into the satellite and launch it. Why do you require a satellite? What is the difference actually? If you see that what is the difference, the computer does not undergo all the vibrational loads. It does not undergo all the temperature excursions which is going to be experienced in the space. So you know in space, it is when the sun is there, it will attract a lot of heat load. When sun is not there, which means eclipse, we call it as an eclipse. That means Earth is obscuring the sun. That means at the back of the Earth, the satellite is going. Because satellite is going around the Earth. When it is going behind the Earth, so that is called deep space. When during that time the satellite temperature will go to very low temperature, as low as -4 degree Kelvin. Similar way, when it is seeing sun, it goes to plus 100 degrees centigrade. Under all the conditions, you have to survive. Our electronic package cannot survive. It survives to the room temperature around 25 degrees centigrade to maximum 40 degrees centigrade. So we require a thermal control system, and we cannot depend on only our battery. Like for example, our mobile has got a battery, but the battery needs to be charged. Similar way, we have a battery in the spacecraft, but we require a solar power generation. For that, the cells are there, and power electronics is there. Then to conduct all these things, we require an intelligence. That intelligence is nothing but an onboard computer. This onboard computer does all these functions. Next. Then, see, you launch a satellite, but you have to communicate. It has to communicate with Earth, and Earth has to communicate. Our station we have to communicate to satellite has to communicate to us. We require an RF system. Next. And we require sensors. Like as I told, in the space, you have put one object. You know, spacecraft, all of you would have looked. It is a cuboid in shape. The shape wise, if you see, it is always a cuboid. It has got 6 faces. Each face has got some purpose. One face will be having a solar panel, another face will have an antenna, another face will have some instrument. Like that, we have 6 faces. All the 6 faces are equipped with certain instrument. Now, for us to orient towards Earth all the time, even though space, we all know that space is no disturbance at all, and there is no gravitational force. But you know, due to the Sun-Earth interaction, due to the Sun-Moon interaction, due to the Moon and Earth interaction, there is some third body perturbations. These perturbations will not allow the satellite to be always into the required orbit. There is a disturbance. This disturbance has to be overcome by our reaction wheels, our own thrusters, our own propulsion system. So these functions also required in the satellite. Next. That's why the reaction wheels, actuators are there, and next to the reaction wheel you are seeing one tiny thrusters. Next. And the thermal control system. As I told, under all the temperature excursions, you have to survive. The satellite needs to be survived. For that, we have optical solar reflector, we have multi-layer insulation, we have heat pipes. See, all the time, no, the electronic packages will generate heat. Our own human body generates heat. Similar way, the electronic package also generates heat. That heat has to be thrown away to the deep space, for which we have a heat pipes to carry the heat from one place to another place. Next. And this is some of the mechanisms. See, in the launch vehicle, if you see, at the top of the launch vehicle, the satellite sits. But there is a limited volume available for us to launch. But in the space we require a bigger solar panel for generating more power. So you need to scout inside the launch vehicle. After it gets injected, you will deploy the panel. So that's why the deployable mechanisms are called for. So you can see the base structure. This how our skeleton is there. Similar way, the satellite has got a structure which carries all the instruments like sensors. Whatever I told, all the instruments are carried in the structure. Next. So this is typically a satellite view. This is how the viewpoint I was telling. If you just disassemble the satellite, it's like this. You just disassemble the satellite. All these systems are placed here. The reflectors, solar panel, sensors, propulsion system, the battery, power electronics like that. Next. So, having covered the satellite, the space system does not have only satellite. It has got a launch vehicle. We have already looked at it. We have looked at the spacecraft. This is how the Chandrayaan 3 is there. And in order to communicate between the satellite and Earth, which I already told, that is called ground segment. We require an antenna. We require a telemetry dedicated system. All the time we need to communicate with the satellite to monitor the health and also to command the satellite. So the many agencies are involved. It is not only the launch vehicle, it is not only the satellite, it is not only the ground station. There are many agencies are involved. That's why it is an interdisciplinary in nature. See, I am from mechanical engineering, but I cannot limit myself to mechanical engineering. That's why when you step out of the college, whichever the discipline you are, for example, you are an electronics communication engineer or you are a mechanical engineer, but when you come out of the college, the more important thing is the teamwork. You have to sync with the team. The team plays a major role than individual. The team comes first. So whatever the common objective is there, you need to meet. That's more important. That's why the interdisciplinary approach comes. So having covered all these things, now the most exciting part, we will come to the Chandrayaan 3. See, lunar landing. As you all are aware that there are 3 countries which have already landed. One is US, Russia and China. We were the 4th country to master the technology of safe and soft land. But we were the first country to go near to the pole. That's why you are seeing so many landers have landed in the moon. This is the moon. You see the farthest point is the Chandrayaan. We were the first to go there. And why we wanted to go to the South Pole, near to the South Pole? It has got a science relevance. It has got a science interest. That's why we went to close to the South Pole. And US started with initially Ranger and then Surveyor. Third is the Apollo mission. Apollo was a crewed mission where the astronaut went inside the crewed module. Then USSR started with the Luna program. As you all are aware that Luna 25, just before our launch, just before our landing, they had a crash landing. That was a Luna 25. They started with Luna 1 onwards. Then China has got a Changi mission. Like how we got a Chandrayaan mission, China has got a Changi mission. Changi 1 and 2 was an orbiting mission, and then Changi 3 was a landing mission. Changi 4 and 5, they have launched now Changi 6 also. Next. Like there were many unsuccessful attempts before the successful landing. US has got 3 unsuccessful attempts before the first successful landing. Similar way, USSR, Russians have got 11 unsuccessful attempts before the first successful attempt. Our Chandrayaan 2 also, we had a crash landing. And other recent unsuccessful missions, Beership, just Beership has aimed, they had a crash landing from Israel. And then Akuta, iSpace, Akuta R1 mission, just before our landing, it is from Japanese, they had a crash landing. Luna 25 as well. So lunar landing missions are very complex in nature. It is higher complexity compared to any other satellite. Because simply you can imagine like this. You are just going, you are going with a 0 velocity from Sriharikota. You are escaping from the Earth, escaping velocity to the moon orbit. So moon is away by 4 lakh kilometers. You go with certain velocity. And again from the moon you are hitting and landing into a 0 meter per second. And to a precise of wherever we want to go, we want to achieve. So that precision is required, that much of velocity we need to get. That's why that landing mission becomes more complex. Next. So between Earth and Moon, many of you are aware, students at least you should be aware. So it has got fundamental differences. The first difference is Moon does not have an atmosphere. Like Earth is protected atmosphere. That's why we are able to live. Whereas moon does not have an atmosphere. It is a deep vacuum. Second is because of the vacuum, the temperature is very, very harsh. Again, when the sun is there, it goes to 150 degrees centigrade. When sun is not there, it goes to minus 170 degrees centigrade. Under that harsh environment, one has to survive. Because of the vacuum, always it is pumping with radiation. Full of all this electromagnetic spectrum is radiating. Then the moon size and mass, all of you are aware. The another important thing is the gravity. You know what is the Earth's gravitational force? It is 9.81 meter per second square. Whereas moon's gravity is 1/6 of the Earth's gravity. So again, we have to qualify our systems suiting to our moon's gravity and simulating at Earth. And also the most important thing is how in Earth we have a day of 12 hours and 12 hours night. In moon, one lunar day is equal to 14 Earth days. Similar way, one lunar night is equal to 14 Earth days. Continuously, the sun is there for 14 Earth days, sun is not there for 14 Earth days. Next. And also the moon is away by 4 lakh kilometers from the Earth. So it is not very nearby, it's almost 4 lakh kilometers away from the Earth. See, reaching the moon has got several steps. Starting from launch phase, earth-bound phase, moon-bound phase, and finally you have to leave the earth and capture the moon, and the most important is the landing phase. So we have to design our maneuvers very precisely right from launch. You know that launch has taken place July 14, whereas landing has taken place on 23rd August. Almost 42 days we spent in carrying out many maneuvers because launch vehicle has got some capability. It was injected into certain velocity, but that velocity was not sufficient enough to take the spacecraft to the moon's orbit, that is 4 lakh kilometers. In order to go to 4 lakh kilometers, we have to use our own chemical propulsion system present in the satellite. So you would have seen there are many Earth orbits, the red color curves you are seeing. There are many orbits. We were raising the apogee, and finally we are bringing the moon close to the Earth. Then when capturing the moon, you have to kill the velocity. The moon is with certain velocity, it is going around the Earth. When you are just coming, the satellite is coming, you have to reduce the velocity and capture the moon. Otherwise you will miss, again you will come back to Earth. So we have to do a precise maneuver. The most important thing is how the landing is important. Similar way, leaving the Earth, going to the moon and capturing the moon is also very important. If you miss the date, time with certain precision, within seconds if you miss, moon will not be there, satellite will be there. So it is such a precision in which we have to operate. The next. So as I already told, launch is also very, very complex. See, without the launch vehicle injecting the satellite into an orbit, whatever the parameters satellite requires in terms of inclination, orbit of perigee, orbit size, there are many things. If that is not achieved, the next step cannot be achieved. That's why the launch onwards it is important. And also, unlike other missions, like I was telling about communication satellite, remote sensing satellite, you can launch any day, any given day. But Chandrayaan kind of a mission cannot be launched, particularly the landing mission cannot be launched any given day. It is dictated by the site. You know, we went to 69.9 degree latitude south, 32.3 degree longitude east. That is the point we have chosen in the beginning of project. 4 years ago we have chosen that point. To reach that point, and our entire mission is of one lunar day, and we were depending on sun, which means we have to land exactly on the first day of the mission life. At that time sun should be there at certain elevation angle, and the landing site dictates the landing site. If you work back from the landing site, when I have to launch, you have to work back. Similar way, when you have to leave the Earth, when you have to capture the moon, when you have to land, everything is predetermined before the launch. So we end up with, if you do this, we end up with only twice in the year. Typically that falls on January, February in the year, and July, August, it comes in the next lot. That's why we went on July launch. And the most important thing is the landing. You know the 19 minutes of terror, you would have heard this, many of you would have heard about this 19 minutes terror. Why we call it as a 19 minutes terror is nothing but you have no ground intervention. Every intelligence has built into the satellite, it has to take a real-time decision. Like one sensor is failing, one engine is not working, one system is not performing to the required within the bounds. Everything has to be assessed on its own, and it has to take decision on its own, and still you have to land. That is where the task comes. So the intelligence, every intelligence has to be built into the lander. So whatever we can foresee, the beginning of the project, our task was only this. You know, failure was not an option for us this time, and success did not come very easily. We crafted the lander to various descent paths, and it has to adopt whatever it encounters. So no room for compromise was left. That is how we designed the lander. We designed the multiple mission plans. Whatever it is, that's why our confidence on the day of landing is not just because of our commitment and toil. It stemmed from hundreds of lab tests and 3 important field tests. That's how the confidence we were having on the landing day. Because we just simulated, we just tested just before the launch that we will have a landing. So we foresee what can fail, what can go wrong, and we built how to handle that failure. That's how that 19 minutes of intelligence is built. And all the systems, as I told, the satellite has got so many systems, but that alone is not sufficient. In addition to that, for landing, we require a propulsion system, we require a guidance system, we require a control system, we require a navigation system. Like navigation system, why it is important? You are just away by 4 lakh kilometers, and you have to go to precisely to the same landing point. You know, in Earth also, see, our landing site strip is 4 km by 2.4 km size. You cannot find a flat strip even in Earth for that size. But we have chosen that site by characterizing from our own sensor from Chandrayaan to orbiter high resolution camera. We characterize thoroughly a priori to launch. Now we have to go to the same point, because you kill all the velocity, but finally if the environment is not conducive, you may topple. You have to stand upright. That was our task, and we have to kill the velocity. Because post landing, we have to operate the rover, we have to operate the payloads, we have to operate many systems. And you cannot actually, if the module topples, then all our work gone waste. That's why the landing script is also important. If you have to go precisely to that point, our navigation is important. The navigation means starting point. So as I told you, 69.9 degree latitude we have to land, which means we have to start at 40 degree latitude. The 40 degree latitude point, how precisely you started that power descent matters a lot. With what accuracy? We are talking about in terms of microsecond. That kind of an accuracy we were talking. Everything has to happen precisely, and every system has to work unison. Like for example, my own system, all my system have to work in unison. So one system is telling something, another system is not following that, then we are failing. And also it has to work within the bounds. Like for example, I have a capability to run at certain speed. Within that, I design the system. But if I get beyond that, so for example, I am able to run, let's say 5 km per hour speed I can run. But on a given day, I was demanded to run 6 km per hour. Maybe I may not survive. I am not capable for that. But still, I have to reach the destination. That's how we design it. So even beyond the bounds, any system will work within the bounds. All engineering students mostly understand this. Every system will work in 3 sigma bound. That is called the 3 sigma dispersion. In our normal distribution curve, we put a 3 sigma. Beyond that, we will not design it, but still it has to work. So we design like that. Next. And to qualify this, all the systems has to be qualified in Earth, simulating the gravity, simulating the vacuum environment, simulating all the lunar soil simulant. There are many things. That was the biggest challenge for us. This time we did multiple tests. One of the tests is integrated pole test, wherein we carried all the sensors. I was telling you about navigation. The navigation in the sense, all the position x, y, z, all the velocity px, py, and pz. All these 6 state vectors have to be thoroughly characterized, for which every sensor was on board. In fact, we used chairman was actually he was sharing with me during when I was sitting down, he was telling that landing he was seeing, and he saw that laser instrument you have used first time. I saw that laser was coming, and I could see that laser instrument, and it actually sensed that, and it took a landing. In fact, it was even for a person like him was able to tell that there is a new thing in the Chandrayaan. Yes, of course, that is a new instrument we have on board, laser Doppler velocimeter, which was not present in Chandrayaan 2. It was present in Chandrayaan 3. It was one of the state-of-the-art instrument which provides velocity information. Similar way, we have many improvements. One is improvement. How to characterize that? For characterizing that, we created artificial crater and boulder in Chitradurga near to Bangalore, and we flew all the sensors in an helicopter. We actually injected the velocity and height to characterize those sensors. We mounted inside the helicopter. There is an underbelly. There is a cutout. Through the sensor is looked through the cutout, and it sends all these things. Another important test is we did actuator performance test, for which we again created a test site with artificial crater and boulder. We hired a tower crane. We erected so many new facilities in Sriharikota. That test was another test. Third test is we had our own test bed, that is called lunar soil simulated test bed. Final phase is you have to land. When you land with certain velocity, even though we are telling 0 meter per second, but 0 meter per second is not possible because of dispersions. Any system, ideally it will not work. It will work with certain dispersion. Under that dispersion, we may end up with 1 meter per second vertically, or 2 meter per second, or 3 meter per second, but we need to quantify those systems. So we drop that lander at certain height, and impact tool, when it touches, it has an impact. That impact velocity needs to be observed. All our dampers needs to be characterized. Still, it has to offer a stable and smooth platform. So for which we devised a separate test. Next. So having seen that Chandrayaan 2, what has happened? See, people should be knowing that Chandrayaan 2 was beautifully launched on July 2019, 22nd it was launched. Further to that, similar like reaching the moon, we had several earthbound maneuvers. Finally, we achieved the moon's orbit. All those things happened flawlessly, like in Chandrayaan 3. And also the lander and orbiter got separated. The orbiter job is to carry the lander. Similarly, our Chandrayaan 3 propulsion module's job is to carry the lander. This all happened beautifully. Next. The next important phase is, you can see this curve. There is a red color curve. This is what is expected. There is a blue dotted line. That is what has happened on the day. Finally, this is how we have to go. But you see, there is a crash landing. It has got the 4 phases. One is the rough braking phase. I will not go into detail, but for you to understand, you are starting from 30 kilometers from the moon surface, and you have to reach to the landing site point with 0 meter per second velocity. You started with 1.683 kilometer per second. That is around 1683 meter per second. The spacecraft is traveling with certain velocity, very high velocity, 1683 meter per second, and you have to kill to 0 meter per second. Now the rough braking phase went well. There was absolutely no problem. You can see the red curve and the blue dotted line. It followed meticulously. The next phase is called camera posting phase, wherein we got a deviation. You can see the bottommost, the red color, the red one. It started deviating, and further on, at the start of fine braking phase, with the lesser energy, we have to reach to the same landing site point. So it called for an aggressive maneuver. Because of that, we lost altitude. We ended up with very high velocity. At the time of touchdown, the velocity of Chandrayaan 2 lander was nearly 50 meter per second. Our lander leg, our own legs, we can actually jump from this side. If I have to jump from second floor, my legs are not capable enough to withstand. My legs may break. Similar way, you end up with the 50 meter per second. No way the systems can survive. That's how we ended up in Chandrayaan. To overcome that, the first and foremost important thing, we have to learn from the mistake. It's okay, we can fail. Even in our life, day to day, we can see that many things cannot go right. Every day you would have seen this. Someday it will go right, someday it will go off. But we have to learn from that situation. So that's how we first, whatever Chandrayaan 2 has happened, we thoroughly analyze the data and we pinpointed what went wrong. That was a root cause analysis we did. And corrective action we have taken. Next, in addition to that, our Indian mentality, anything we would have simply gone ahead with the same system. But our mentality is we will improvise. Any system you give, we will improvise. You give 2 more days extra, we will improvise. That's how our thinking is always. So we, in the process of robustness, every system of lander is made more robust. This time in Chandrayaan 3. Then, as I was telling, the ground test, that is very, very important to qualify the system. To get confidence, how will you get a confidence? You will get a confidence only by test, only by simulations. Whatever the conditions you can simulate, whatever conditions can go wrong, you simulate. Whatever conditions you are totally not anticipated, you simulate, and you still show the result that it can succeed. That's how the confidence is built. Finally, that led to the safe and soft landing. This is how our Chandrayaan 3 approach was. Next. I will not go into the detail. We have many segments. You would have seen in the TV. One is the launch vehicle. Next is the propulsion module, lander module, and rover. The rover was inside the lander. Upon landing, the rover has come out. Anyway, I have visuals you will be seeing. And finally, this is how the rightmost picture you can see. That is a Chandrayaan 3 composite module. The bottom one is the propulsion module. The top one is the lander module. And the propulsion module carried the lander till the 100 by 100 kilometer lunar orbit. And then it got separated. The lander was on its own after that. And we have, in addition to that, we have scientific instruments both in lander as well as rover. So it has got 3 distinct objectives: safe and soft landing, rover roving on the moon surface, and in situ scientific experiment. We have got 3 payloads in lander, 2 payloads in rover, 1 payload in propulsion module. Next. This is all again the same trajectories. The bottommost is more important. You can see we had a backup plan for everything. For example, launch did not take place on July 14. We have a window of up to 19th. Similar way, EBN 1 is not going well. We had a plan B, we had a plan C. Similar way, TLI, LOI, and the landing also. For example, the landing I was mentioning you, the south it has gone to 69.3 degrees south. East is 32.3 degrees east. For example, on that day, 23rd August, we would not have landed. Still, 3 days later, we would have come to west. But with the same latitude, we would have come to west. We identified another landing site, which many of you may not be aware, that 26th of August we would have landed. So we had a backup plan for everything. We prepared well this time so that the soft landing is inevitable. That's how our mission planning was next. Next slide, can you go? See, there are many robustness we built. One of the thing is the multiple mission path, which I was telling the intelligence, 19 minutes intelligence. Whatever may happen, we built as many mission paths as possible. One is not going well, still we have not constrained ourselves to only that landing point. We wanted a soft landing. We have to kill the velocity and the lander has to be upright. That was our task. So for that we built, it's a many intricacies in engineering. I cannot go because due to the lack of time. Next. So next slide we went. So this is the photograph of the various modules. The left side is the flight module. The top one is the propulsion module. Center one is the rover. The bottom one is the flight module, and the center one is the composite module. Right side you can see some of the videos you are going to see. You can see on the right side there is another satellite which is mounted inside the helicopter, and this helicopter only flew to the Chitradurga and characterized the sensors. And the center one is the test where the engines are fired in Sriharikota, where we conducted a very massive test site to put actuator, sensors and guidance and control in closed loop. The bottom one is the lander drop test, where we were dropping the lander, simulating 1/6 of mass. You cannot simulate the moon's gravity at Earth, but you can reduce the mass by 1/6 so that it is equivalent to gravity. That's how our model is created with 1/6 of mass. And we created a lunar soil simulant test bed under different conditions, on a flat terrain, on a slopey terrain of 12 degree, with the boulders, with the craters, on a hard surface. Different test hole combinations we have tested. Not one test, a series of tests was conducted. Next. Just you can click that video, you can come out of the PPT and click on video. Just whatever I told, how the satellite was realized and how it has made it rolled out from the URL of satellite center, just captured. So you can come out of the PPT and file you can select.
The Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft consists of a propulsion module and a lander module with a rover accommodated inside the lander. The propulsion module and the lander module are stacked together to form the integrated module. 6 modules were realized during Chandrayaan-3 project life cycle, out of which 3 were flight modules and 3 were special test modules.
The main function of propulsion module is to carry the lander module from launch vehicle injection till lander surface.
Of 20 tests were successfully conducted, which include 6 dry runs, 8 static tests, and 6 dynamic closed loop tests. The lander leg drop tests were carried out to evaluate the energy absorption capability, strength, and stability aspects of lander legs during touchdown. A new facility was realized at ISITE with a test bed with flat and 12-degree inclined drop surface. Detailed tests were carried out at damper level, single leg level, simulator level, and QM structure level for various touchdown velocities on flat and sloped surface, and on lunar soil simulant and hard surface. A total of 15 drop tests at simulator level and 2 drop tests at QM structure level were conducted successfully. The objective of lander is to demonstrate safe and soft landing on lunar surface. Detailed assembled mode IST was carried out, followed by mass property measurement, thermo-vacuum test, solar panel assembly, and illumination test, EMI-EMC test at CATF ISAT. This was followed by pre-dynamic deployment of secondary rover RAM, primary RAM, and rover rollout from lander, and payload deployments such as INSA and Ramba, chased, and the lander was made ready for further activities. Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft was made ready for shipment to spaceport at SDSC Shah.
Whatever the visuals you have seen, only the spacecraft was made ready and sent it to the Sriharikota. Further to that, see the propellant, we require a propellant. It's a chemical propulsion system. We need to fill the hydrogen and oxidizer. So that is used in the Sriharikota. Finally, the spacecraft was made ready at Sriharikota and it got encapsulated. And finally, this encapsulated assembly at the right side is moved to the launch pad next. And finally launched to test next. And there are several orbits which I already talked about next. And this is an onboard visual. At every 3 seconds from 30 kilometers till touchdown, a portion of the lander and portion of the moon surface was captured by its own camera, lander camera, for public outreach. And there are various events, on the right side you can see from 30 km till touchdown. This was live streaming was coming. You would have seen in the visuals. So finally, we also saw, in addition to the critical parameters, you all will not be knowing about the critical parameters, but this is like a real visual. Next. And this is most interesting. Our Chandrayaan 2 orbiter high resolution camera, which was going around the moon, even though the mission life was 1 year, more than 4 years over after the Chandrayaan 2 launch, still it is going on. And that orbiter high resolution camera on the left side, it captured the image just before the landing. Right side image is just after the landing. You can see the lander is captured by that camera, the Chandrayaan 2 orbiter high resolution camera. Next. You can click this video. And this is how upon landing, the ramp gets deployed like this for the rover to come out. This is only an animation. Now you will see after this animation, the rover solar panel gets deployed and rover rolls out from the ramp and touches the lunar surface. This is actual onboard camera visuals. The ramp got deployed. You not have seen after the landing to public it was actually cut. Now we were working throughout the night for the ramp to open and the rover to come out. And finally we saw that the rover has come out beautifully. Before the lander was actually assembled into the encapsulated assembly, we saw the rover. After that, we saw exactly on the moon. Next. And this is a classical picture. The rover has taken a picture of lander. Rover has got its own camera. It moved away by 30 meters from the lander point and took one view. So all the time we used to refer these 3 journals, our US, Russians and China, where their own lander sitting onto the moon surface. When we saw our own lander was sitting upright, we felt very happy during that time when we got this visual. And on the right side, the rover is coming onto the ramp. We had our Indian flag. And on the back side of the wheel, we have our national emblem as well as the ISRO logo, and that also was captured. Next. And these are some of the views where, now coming to the scientific experiment, there are many scientific instruments on board in lander as well as rover, which has got a deployable payloads. So all these deployable elements, one is called HILSA, that is instrument for lunar seismic activity. Then there is a CHASTE, that is a thermophysical experiment, and the physical experiment on the Aeromar, where there is a probe. That probe gets inserted into the lunar regolith. It's a drilling mission. It puts inside up to 140 mm, and every 10 mm there is a temperature sensor. It measures the temperature variations as well as thermal conductivity during that 1 to 3 minutes. So that also was captured visually. Next. And our Prime Minister has kept the name where we landed as a Shiv Shakti point. From the Shiv Shakti point, how the rover has traversed. You can see the rover has come out and it traversed almost in that entire 1 lunar day. It travelled nearly 101 meter and going continuously 24/7 we were operating. Unlike the lander has got a fully autonomous capability, but rover does not have that full autonomous capability. It is always, the rover does not communicate directly with Earth. It will always communicate via lander. So the rover has to send the picture. We have to do the path planning in front of rover. Any hazards are there or not, we will analyze that image in ground through lander, and then again we upload the commands, and next point A to point B the rover moves. So this operation continues for the entire 1 lunar day, that is 14 Earth days of 24/7. And some of the scientific instruments, because of lack of time I am not able to cover this. There are various instruments. One is studying the thermophysical experiment, another one is studying the seismic activity. Naturally, whatever the ground related vibrations can come due to the meteoroid impact. Moon is vacuum, so that directly meteoroid can impact. Because of that, the ground generates a ground reverberation, ground vibrations. So we had an eye sensitive accelerometer which can capture the kind of vibration, as well as artificial movement, like rover is moving. When rover is moving, it generates some vibration. So there is an instrument for that. Then we have state of the art. First time, first of all, that particular location we were the first to go, and to conduct the in situ surface experiment was the first time. We did spectroscopy study, like laser induced breakdown spectroscopy, and then alpha particle X-ray spectrometer using an X-ray fluorescent technique. There are various instruments in rover also was there. And one more very important instrument is surface plasma environment. We need to know how much of electron density and electron temperature the surface has got. So for us to study future missions. So typically such instruments were the next. So this is the final thing. All of you would have heard this also. We are just closing our mission life. We also took off where we landed. So lander does not have any wheel. So we called as an hop-on experiment. We fired the same engine which got landed, and we just took off and we landed. You can click the center video where the actual can onboard. Just click the center one, the black one. So where the engines have took off. Yeah. See, you can see that how the dust is coming out. So this is where the lander is there. You cannot see the lander, but the image you can see how the dust is coming out due to the fire of engine. We took off about the 40 centimeter up, as well as landed sideways by 40 centimeters. So that again we got a new location. We again inserted the probe into the lunar regolith. We again deployed the ILSA. All these things were unplanned. Our higher management, our chairman and director URSA was telling me, let us do this experiment. And we worked more than 24 hours and we conducted successfully this experiment also. This is how it exceeded our expectations of Chandrayaan. Next. I will not go into this. Next. This is all some of the Chandrayaan mission is accomplished. It has become a celebration across the country, and we were very happy that it is not the achievement for the scientific community. It has become a country's achievement. Next. More information are available. You can refer these websites. I will drop this presentation. You can go through. Next. So with this, I conclude. I will just receive whatever the questions you have. I will be happy to answer. Yes, I'm not in my